Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, September 13th. There's about 450 albums coming out this week. I got 14 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's about 450 albums coming out this week. Only going to talk about 14 in the show though today, so if there's something I don't talk about, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should all be available online. I'll put links down below in the comments section. You can also always go to the Vinyl Den Amazon store. There's also a link down there for that, where all pre-orders on there, new releases, there's some deals on there. Lots of cool stuff to check out. One album I'm really looking forward to grabbing this week is this new album from Jack White. This is No Name. Came out back on July 19th. It was a 6 studio album. It's going to run you about $25 online. A couple of different versions of this album have already been released previously. Before the album came out, it was like the week before the album came out, it was released, super ultra rare version. I think it was only like a couple hundred copies of it that they pressed through Third Man Records. It was just a plain white cover of this album. You had to go to Third Man Records in person to grab a copy of it. And then on release day, they released an indie exclusive version of this on blue vinyl, which is also pretty limited. I think they only did like 2,000 copies of it. I thought about grabbing a copy of the blue vinyl version, but it's going for like 50 or 60 bucks on Discogs now. So I'm perfectly fine just grabbing a copy of it on black vinyl this week. So this album, to be honest, I wasn't all that impressed with his last couple of studio albums. I thought they were really good albums. I don't think they're quite up to the Jack White standard that he built earlier in his solo career. So when this album came out, I didn't have like super high expectations for it. And then I listened to it, and I've been really impressed with this album. I think it's probably one of Jack's best albums, at least one of his best albums in quite a few years. I'm sure it'll end up, on my top 10 list at the end of the year. So like I said, I'm definitely going to grab a copy of that this week. And then you've also got the reissue of Contraband by Velvet Revolver coming out. This was released back in 2004 as their debut studio album. It's 2 LP release. It's going to run you about $38 online. So Velvet Revolver started as this like benefit project that Slash, Duff McKagan, and Matt Sorum, all from Guns N' Roses, put together in 2002, and it kind of evolved from there. They auditioned a bunch of lead singers, couldn't really find somebody that really kind of fit the style that they wanted to do for this band, and then Scott Weiland came along and joined, and it's kind of the rest is kind of history from there. Slither was a great track off here. Fall to Pieces was the one big track that really kind of pushed this album out into the mainstream. I'm definitely looking forward to this new 20th anniversary release that's coming out. It's got 5 additional songs on here, which are all covers, and then there's a great acoustic version of Fall to Pieces on there also. Like I said, I'm definitely going to grab both that and that Jack White album this week. You also get the reissue of Bon Jovi's Greatest Hits coming out this week. Came out back in 2010. It's a 2 LP release. It's going to run you about $33 online. So this is 16 of the band's biggest tracks, plus 2 tracks that were new when this album came out back in 2010. So this is the first time this has been on vinyl since the big 4 LP version of this was pressed and released back in 2010 when the album came out, which the 4 LP version, I want to say there's like 26 or 28 tracks on there. Like I said, you're getting 18 tracks on this one. So a little bit different track listing between this and the original release. I kind of wish they would have done the same thing that like Aerosmith did when they did their new Greatest Hits album. Was it last year that came out? Where they did like a couple of different versions of this. I would love to see just the 2 LP version. I would like to see them reissue the full 4 LP version of this also. I'm not the biggest Bon Jovi fan. I have Slippery When Wet on vinyl. I think I've got New Jersey also, but I might grab a copy of the of this one when it comes out this week. Hit number 5 on the Billboard 200, sold several million copies of it. It was a big release when it came out. I remember that. Then they got the new album from Not Surf coming out this week. This is Moon Mirror. It's their 10th studio album. There's 2 different versions of this that are going to be available. There's a 1 LP version that's going to run you about $25, and then there's a 2 LP version that's going to run you about $40. Really, the only difference is the 2 LP version comes with a whole extra disc of all the demos on there. So Not a Surfer, of course, is known for their debut album High Low. Popular, was a hugely popular song, but they've also released some other really good albums across their career. I haven't listened to any of their stuff since, I think, Lucky came out in 2008, I think. It was the last album of theirs I listened to. So I definitely need to go back through and check out some of the other albums also. Like I said, if all you know is their debut album, they're definitely a band to check out. There's also a 30th anniversary pressing of Ready to Die by Notorious B.I.G. coming out this week. Came out back in 1994. It was his debut studio album. There's a 2 LP release. It's got some reimagined artwork on there. It's going to run you about $35 online. This is an album that I've long considered one of the top 10 rap albums of all time. Definitely one of the best rap albums of the 1990s. And this is an album that really kind of changed, I think, the trajectory of East Coast rap music. By the time the middle part of the 90s hit, I think rap music had lost a lot of that grittiness that it had in the late 80s, early part of the 90s. And this album, I think, really kind of changed it, at least for East Coast rap music. It was a huge album. It sold over 6 million copies here in the U.S. Like I said, it's an album I've loved since it first came out. So that's a great one to look at this week. And then you've also got the latest album from Bare Naked Ladies, In Flight, coming out. This came out back in 2023. It was their 14th studio album. It's going to run you about $35 online. I know this album was met with some really mixed reviews. I think it's a pretty decent album, though, even though I've never been a really big fan of Bare Naked Ladies. So this is a limited edition picture disc version that they're releasing this week. I know they've got limited edition on there, but it doesn't say really how limited this is. So I really don't know if this truly is limited or if this is just kind of a marketing ploy they're doing on this album. Like I said, it's an album that, if you haven't listened to this one, I think it's at least worth checking out. It's got that same kind of humor that Bare Naked Ladies have had throughout their career. Like I said, not a great album, but, it's definitely one worth checking out, I think. The next release is one I've been looking forward to since it was first announced. I actually went over this in my fall and winter new release video a couple of weeks back. But this is Electric Lady Studios' Jimi Hendrix Vision. This is a new 5 LP, 1 Blu-ray box set, mostly unreleased material. There's 39 tracks on here, 38 of which are unreleased. It's going to run you about $120 online. This does come with a documentary about the recording studio. Like I said, I'm definitely looking forward to this one. $120, I think, is a little bit much for me. I'll try to grab a copy of it on sale somewhere. But this is all stuff that Jimmy recorded shortly before he died in 1970. He didn't get a whole lot of time in his new recording studio. He started it in 68 or 69, didn't finish it until 1970. So, like I said, I'm a big fan of Jimi Hendrix since I was a teenager. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking out that box set. It does come in like a nice deluxe slip case. There's unreleased photos in there. Like I said, I think it's going to be an interesting release, especially because it comes with that documentary. Then you got Frank Zappa Apostrophe getting reissued this week. Came out back in 1974. It was a 6th solo studio album. Its 50th anniversary release is going to be on metallic gold vinyl. It's going to run you about $30 online. This is probably one of his best known albums. It's definitely his highest charting album here in the U.S. Hit number 10 on the Billboard 200. This is all newly remastered by Bernie Grundman. It includes new liner notes. It's got some photos in there. I've never been a big fan of Frank Zappa, but I had a copy of this on vinyl back when I was a teenager. I listened to it a ton. I don't have a copy of it anymore, so it's definitely one I'll look to grab this week. There's also 2 big jazz releases coming out this week. They're both part of the Verb by Request series. These are pressed at Third Man Records here in Detroit. They do a great job with these jazz releases. But the first one was Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. Came out back in 1961. This is going to run you about $30 online. This is the last album in kind of a great period for the Jazz Messengers. Bobby Timmons would leave the group shortly after this album came out, which kind of changed the overall sound of the group. But he's got Lee Morgan on here. He's got Curtis Fuller, Wayne Shorter's on here also. I think Monin is my favorite Art Blakey album. This, I think, is a really close second, though. Really, if you're a fan of Art Blakey stuff, it's definitely a cool one to check out. And then you also got Freddie Hubbard, The Body and the Soul, coming out. This was released back in 1963. It's also going to run you about $30 online. This is kind of a different kind of jazz album. For really the only time in Freddie's career, he used a lot of orchestral elements in this album. And I think because it is so different, it kind of stands out across his great career. It's definitely one that if you're a jazz fan, if you never listened to this one, it's like I said, it's very different than anything else that you would hear in that the early part of the 60s jazz world. So, like I said, it's definitely one worth checking out also. There's also the 10-year anniversary edition of Tori Amos, Unrepentant Geraldines, coming out this week. Released back in 2014, it was our 14th studio album. This is a 2 LP deluxe edition. It's going to run you about $40 online. So this album was kind of marked the return of the whole pop rock sound that Tori's really known for. The couple albums she released before these were these almost like classical albums, which I don't think they really worked. At least I wasn't a big fan of them. So I think this is kind of a return to form album for her. This does come with, I think, 3 additional bonus tracks on here. Really kind of a stripped down acoustic sound she's got on this album. A lot of these tracks are just her and a piano. It's definitely one we're checking out. I haven't listened to it in, probably quite a few years now, so it's definitely one I'll add to my list to stream this week. Then you also got Eric Clapton Unplugged getting reissued. Came out back in 1992. This is an Amazon exclusive. It's going to be on orange and purple vinyl. It's going to run you about $38 online. This is a classic Eric Clapton album. And, I think a lot of Eric Clapton songs really kind of work as these like stripped down acoustic versions better than the studio versions. Of course, the version of Layla on here I think is 10 times better than the studio version of it. Tears in Heaven was also a huge track on here. Go on to win 6 Grammys and a bunch of accolades. Album of the Year it won also. It is a really good album to kind of go back through and listen to. Then the last 2 albums on my list this week are both the first 2 albums from Coldplay. And I'm not really interested because of the music on these. It's kind of, it's really the production of these albums I'm interested in. I'll kind of get to them after I go over the albums real quick. The first one is their debut album from 2000, Parachutes. Going to run you about $24 online. This is the album that really kind of introduced the world to the whole like atmospheric kind of rock stuff that Coldplay did earlier in their career. Sold really well. Hitting, I think, number 52 on the Billboard 200. Sold 3 million copies here in the U.S. And then their second album is A Rush of Blood to the Head. Came out back in 2002. It's going to run you $25 online. The follow-up was even bigger. It was a top 10 album here in the U.S. Sold 5 or 6 million copies. So why I'm really interested in these albums are these 2 are both eco records. So it's a different kind of process, a little bit different material than the regular PVC. These are made out of PET, so it's really similar to PVC, but it's more recyclable. It's a different kind of pressing process also for these 2 albums. So instead of the regular like pressing process that they've done for 100 plus years, these are injection molded albums. So it's supposed to be more energy efficient. I'm really interested to hear or read about the sound quality of these. That's my big thing with like Eco Mix vinyl. I've done a whole video about it before. It's all about the sound quality. So if we're able to have a more like environmentally friendly product with these eco records, I'm all for it. But it really comes down to sound quality. That's why I really want to see, and hear what people think about the sound quality of these albums. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. Like I said, I'm definitely going to grab that Jack White album. I'll probably grab that Velvet Revolver. There's a couple other ones that got some question marks next to. Like I said, I'm really interested in reading some reviews on those Coldplay albums also. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to grabbing. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep all spinning. Peace.